Welcome everyone to today's webinar, Human Meets Machine, Making AI Work in Your Practice.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you, Charles. And yeah, hello everybody and welcome to today's webinar. So today we're going to be doing a bit of a hop, skip and a jump through AI, specifically obviously with accountants in mind. Just to explain who I am. I'm Rachel Bruce and I'm the publisher at ACPD, which means that I look after our publishing programme, commission authors, and I manage our entire catalogue of content. Am I an AI expert? No, but I do commission authors who are, and there has been an explosion, obviously, in demand for learning about AI in the last year or so. And so in terms of the CPD we provide, the courses that we publish on AI have been our most popular, alongside some of the traditional technical accounting topics that are the bread and butter of accountants. So in today's webinar, I'm going to be introducing you may already know about in terms of AI, but hopefully today will help you to think about how you're using AI in your practice already and how to move forward from that. And if you're not using it yet, it will hopefully demystify it a little bit and enable you to get started. And just for clarity, the content I'm going to be sharing with you today is from working with our subject matter experts in the subject. So we're going to start with the current situation in terms of where we are now with the AI movement, move on to how AI is working in audit. Then we're going to have a look at automation, and then on to how we make sure there is governance around it and the importance of that. And then wrapping up, as Charles said just now, to look at AI and ethics, which here in the UK is a hot topic amongst accountants. And finally, we're going to look at some key takeaways from today, and I'll share with you a little bit of detail about, what we have published on this ever-evolving area, and share my details so you can contact me with any questions if you want to. But starting off, obviously ahead of this webinar, you've been asked for some feedback on how you're using AI at the moment. So we thought we'd share these results with you. So in terms of, how you describe your current experience with AI, it has been a real mix. I mean, 43% of you saying, you have some use of AI in your practice, but equally, the similar amount really saying you're just starting to explore it. And I think this is true of, the experience that I have with the learners that I work with, in terms of, there is just this real mix of who is doing what. So as I say, some of you listening today will know a lot about what I'm talking about, but some of you may not. So I'm just, forgive me if I'm teaching you to suck eggs as we go through, but hopefully there'll be some useful for you to take away. And moving on to the next slide, very few of you are admitting to being an advanced user, and I think it would take a very brave soul to say that they were, to be honest. It's such a quickly evolving area, and actually 90% of you are saying somewhat. Then that's indicative of here how things are in Europe. Everything is being checked, I think, and that is anecdotally, what accountants are by nature. You want to check everything, and obviously as accountants you all practice professional skepticism, and I think that bodes well here in terms of the application of AI and the use of it in the industry. And obviously with the ethics poll, that's hugely important with AI, and specifically for accountants. And as I say, we published an entire course on that, and it has been unbelievably popular. And I think, ethics is at the heart of everything that accountants do. So yeah, I think it's a hugely important topic. So if we move on now. So I thought we kind of just see, what we're gonna cover today. We're going to look at where we are. We're going to look at AI and audit, the automation, governance, ethics, and come away with some food for thought for you. But let's see where we are now. And what, let's try and set the scene a little bit. So, really, we're at the dawn of the so-called fourth industrial revolution, and the first industrial revolution used water and steam, the second used electricity, the third used electronics and early IT systems, and now the fourth looks like it's going to incorporate this fusion of technologies that will blur the lines between both physical and digital spheres. So it's exciting. I mean, it's challenging. And at times, I think it sometimes feels very overwhelming. There's an awful lot of hype out there, but let's find out what the reality is and what it means for us all. And I think the relevance of AI to the world of work lies in its transformative power. The scale of this potential transformation is something that experts are still attempting to calculate and predict. just for some numbers, really, you can see on the side of the slide there that, you know, worldwide, the AI market grew past $184 billion in 2024, you know, and the projection is mind-boggling, really. AI software and large language models are soon going to be able to do all manner of jobs, blending into society in ways that aren't yet even clear. Robots powered by AI are growing more and more sophisticated. They're starting to work as everything from security guards and assembly line workers through to food deliverers and line cooks. And I think in any industry, whether it's accounting or otherwise, the benefits brought about by AI can be classified into three primary categories: process, product, and insight. And the process category encompasses automated systems that replace manual tasks, which primarily benefit the organisation internally rather than customers. AI systems belonging to the product category leverage technology to enhance the value of a product or service by making it more effective, convenient, safer, and faster. The insight category uses artificial intelligence to learn from information, draw conclusions, and generate valuable insights for companies, and that can lead to cost reduction and improved efficiency and enhanced customer service. So I think it's key to kind of look at those things in those three areas and how that's going to work for your practice. So, you know, what's the situation where we are, you know, here where we are in Australia? So if we could have the next slide, please, Nina. Yes, thank you. So I think, you know, the AI revolution has already begun. Across Australia, there are firms of all sizes integrating AI-powered tools into their everyday workflows, whether it's predictive analytics in financial modelling, machine learning and fraud detection, or natural language processing in client correspondence. And these technologies are driving new levels of accuracy, speed, and strategic clarity. And, you know, as I say, I saw just as a bit of information, that report, Digital Transformation and Finance report, says 58% of mid-sized accounting practices now use AI in some form, which is a big increase from just a couple of years ago. And I think, you know, it's important to think that, you know, accountants are not being replaced, they're being reimagined. And I think there's, you know, and I think that fear is real. I think there's a lot of that across UK and Europe as well, that, you know, is my job going to disappear? And I think, you know, despite the headlines, AI isn't eliminating the need for accountants. It's just changing the shape of work and elevating the expectations. You know, it can reconcile thousands of transactions in seconds, but it can't replicate your professional judgments, your ethical reasoning, or client relationship management, but it can flag a variance. But it also can't explain its impact on an evolving business model or a family's financial future. So I think AI savvy accountants are going to be more valuable than ever, because by automating repetitive tasks, you know, AI can free you all to focus on strategic human-centered work, you know, like interpreting insights, advising clients, and shaping financial narratives that drive decisions. So what do you need to know? And I think, you know, you don't need to become a data scientist to thrive in an AI enhanced world, but I think you need a foundational understanding of how these technologies work and where they're heading. And I think that's really important when we're considering how AI is filling some of the junior roles. So this reimagining of how accountants operate is really essential. And I thought it's important before we move on to look at some scenarios. And I think it's always fun to kind of see how things have been working, you know, in practice. So let's look, you know, in AI and audit and beyond. You know, I think on the positive side, firms have spotted that there is a new and potentially lucrative market by starting to develop AI auditing tools which verify the safety and performance of AI models. So almost AI to audit the AI. And this is in addition to the use of AI as part of the audit process, in the use of data analytics to interrogate large volumes of data to distinguish patterns and anomalies for investigation. And while the use of data analytics might be a well-trodden path, extending AI into other areas of operation, you know, that can run into snags. And KPMG research, for example, shows that only 42% of people trust AI, and actually almost 75% lack any formal training in it. And I guess it should be remembered that AI is only as good as the individuals who actually program it, because despite the hype at the moment, it's not capable of original thoughts. It's an assembler and interpreter of data, and it can be very flawed. So I think there is a tendency for us as individuals to accept what's being produced by a computer because it looks good, it's neatly typed and has been produced by the computer, but any accountant here listening, has prepared an Excel spreadsheet which looks great but contains a massive error. It will tell you that looks can be deceptive. So AI may take some low-level jobs, but I think until it can go and spontaneously buy biscuits for the audit team, it will have its limitations. And I think people are, they're right to be wary of it and the hype which surrounds it. And so the ghost in the machine is a reality, but it isn't quite ready to rule the world just yet. And I think it is important to think about where AI has gone wrong and what we can learn from this. And I've been speaking to Julia Penny, and she's past president of the ICAW, the big professional body in the UK, and she's a specialist in AI and its ethical application. And she's spoken with me about how there are a number of cautionary tales that highlight how AI systems have gone wrong in the past, and how they exhibit unintended bias in their algorithms. And Julia says the best thing we can do is to try to learn from these stories in order to stop them from happening again. So let's just have a quick look. So last year with Air Canada, Air Canada last year, 2024, found itself in court after one of the company's AI-assisted tools gave incorrect advice for securing a bereavement ticket fare for somebody who'd lost a family member. They faced legal action, and Air Canada's representatives argued that they were not at fault because it was something that their chatbot did. Aside from the huge reputational damage possible in scenarios like this, if chatbots can't be believed, it undermines the trust in AI. Air Canada was forced to return almost half of the fare due to the error, and obviously there was reputational damage, as I say. Let's look at Apple and the credit card that it decided to launch in 2019 with Goldman Sachs. It faced allegations of gender bias in its AI-driven credit assessment system. Several high-profile cases surfaced where women, even with high credit scores and similar financial profiles as their male counterparts, received significantly lower credit limits. And the AI model had been trained on historical financial data, and this likely perpetuated existing gender biases, resulting in unfair credit decisions. And so again, this highlights the risk of bias in AI systems and the importance of transparency and fairness, in making sure that you're training it on the right systems, particularly in financial services. Let's look at another example, Amazon. They developed an AI hiring tool to streamline recruitment by analysing resumes and selecting top candidates. Again, here, the system exhibited bias against female candidates. It was trained on resumes submitted over a 10-year period, and the model favoured male applicants because the tech industry, which historically has been male-dominated, influenced the data. The AI downgraded resumes containing terms such as women's, even, for example, in phrases such as women's teams or women's champions, and Amazon eventually just scrapped the tool. And, again, this underscored the training, the dangers of training on AI on biased data. So I think, as accountants, you might feel that bias issues within an AI system are less likely to have such a big impact. Offering, we're not in recruitment or providing, things like medical care, for example, but these examples highlight the risks involved with an organisation can get it wrong. So training AI tools on biased historical data will produce biased outcomes. So we need to be aware of that because, we don't want to be eroding trust and fairness in the profession. So it's really important to think about the content that we're actually training the AI on. So I think moving on from here, let's have a look at AI in audit. So in May 2024, PwC became OpenAI's single largest ChatGPT enterprise customer and rolled out the software to 100,000 of its employees in the US and the UK, and potentially reselling the service onto its customers. It was a huge investment, a mammoth bet on AI, and it's kind of another sign, I think, that financial services really are at the forefront of this AI revolution. And while AI is just one new tool in an auditor's arsenal, there's plenty of others. It does bring huge potential, and so I thought we'd have a quick look at some of the areas that have already improved as a result of AI. And I think one of the things is that automation of audit trail analysis. And I think, one key area where AI has made a profound impact is in automating the analysis of audit trails. Obviously these are trails that, with detailed records that capture transactional activities and enable auditors to trace the flow of financial data within an organisation. And, if you're using an AI powered tool as an auditor, you can now automate the process of analysing large volumes of audit trail data. And this significantly reduces manual effort and increases efficiency. Machine learning algorithms can quickly identify patterns, anomalies and suspicious activities within the audit trail. And this can enable you as auditors to focus attention on areas that require further investigation. I think also, there's identification of potential risks and non-compliance. AI algorithms can analyse vast amounts of financial and non-financial data to identify unusual patterns or outliers that deviate from expected norms. And so by flagging up these anomalies, auditors can investigate and assess potential risks, use their professional scepticism to look at things such as fraudulent activities, errors, or regulatory non-compliance. So really is using it as a tool to help. Same with fraud detection and prevention. AI's advanced analytics capabilities have empowered auditors to detect and prevent fraud more effectively. Machine learning algorithms can analyse huge data sets, including financial transactions, employee records, external data sources, and that can help identify complex fraud patterns that might go unnoticed by traditional auditing methods. So applying advanced analytics techniques such as network analysis and predictive modelling, AI can uncover hidden relationships and enable auditors to take preventative measures safeguarding the integrity of financial information. And then obviously, importantly, protecting organisations from financial losses. And regulations, we're all very aware of these as accountants. We have to make sure that, we're taking note of these. So regulatory bodies such as the Financial Accounting Standards Board, that they may provide guidelines on the appropriate use of AI in auditing, ensuring transparency and accuracy. In fact, here in the UK in May last year, the Telegraph reported that the Financial Reporting Council was pressuring the Big Four and the main professional bodies to reveal the measures they were taking on AI to combat rule breaking and misuse. So I think, worldwide, regulators have their eyes firmly fixed on this area, and I think it's a place to watch out for. As AI continues to advance, auditors are increasingly going to rely on its capabilities to enhance practices, and I think there's going to become more regulation around that as we go forward. Let's look at the Big Four. I mean, it's just interesting to look at them, I think, as a good case study of the difficulty of keeping track of the development of these AI systems in the sector. And it's interesting in looking at each of the four of them, because much of the technology used at these firms is completely different to one another. They've each invested large amounts of money to come up with their own unique proprietary technologies. So with Deloitte, over the past decade, it's introduced several AI-enabled processes. For example, their document review platform automates the extraction of relevant information from contracts, and it significantly has reduced the arduous manual effort involved and results in more than a 50% reduction in time spent retrieving data from contracts, invoices, financial statements, meeting minutes, etc. They have also developed something called Vitals, a system that collects information from internal systems to assess employees' well-being. Vitals provides employees with insights into their working hours, travel activities, and time off, while also enabling them to share energy levels with their coaches that they're working with. So I think this tool serves as a proactive measure to identify and support employees who are at risk of burnout. Onto EY, they've developed its own robotic process automation RPA system to enhance audit procedures and automate repetitive tasks across various business applications. And more strikingly, I think, EY has developed AI technology that uses computer vision to enable aerial drones to monitor inventory during audits. So by leveraging drones, more data can be collected and analysed, and it allows auditors to focus their attention on risk areas instead of actually just manually counting inventory. I think, this initiative that EY are using is still in the research and development stage and not yet been implemented fully, but, it's a promising glimpse into the future of things that, that's going to be happening in auditing. With PwC, as far back as 2017, they started a unique audit technology called GL.ai. Rolls off the tongue, doesn't it? And that was recognised as Audit Innovation of the Year by International Accounting Bulletin. And the technology thoroughly analyses like every uploaded transaction, user, amounts, and account within the general ledger to identify unusual transactions that may indicate errors or fraud. And so that really helps to maintain objectivity and consistency. And finally, onto KPMG. This has established its own collection of AI tools known as KPMG Ignite, and it really showcases their commitment to AI. It encompasses various offerings, and it includes a call center analytics engine, which uses AI to transcribe custom calls, extract keywords, assess sentiment, and forecast future trends. So yeah, I mean, there are obviously the big four. They're obviously sort of up there over there, and we're looking at practices smaller than that. But it's just, they're interesting case studies, and they're really worth looking at, I think, to see where they're going and what they're doing, and because obviously that kind of will trickle down into how we're going to be using things going forward. Let's move on now to AI and automation, and how AI can actually help with our practice. And I think, it can really supercharge our productivity. It can be applied to more advanced tasks such as data analysis, pattern recognition, anomaly detection, predictive forecasting, and decision making. And I think over 60% of business owners are thinking that AI will increase workers' productivity. So just let's have a look at things like, for example, data entry. So AI technology is already used to automate data entry and categorization processes. It uses, optical character recognition, OCR, and computers can already scan images of invoices, receipts, and other types of financial documents, and that's AI, and that can find images of text, extract this and convert this and that into relevant data. And this machine learning is increasingly industry standard, and it's incorporated into many pieces of accounting software already, for example, Sage, QuickBooks Xero, lots of things like that. With invoice processing, I think AI can reduce the potential for fraud, and we see similar technologies as we do for data entry used for invoice processing and expense management. Software will often use natural language processing to extract relevant information from invoices and receipts, such as vendor names, invoice dates, and amounts. It can then automatically match invoices with purchase orders and contracts, and it just eliminates the need for time-consuming manual review. And I think additionally, suspicious or duplicate expenses can then also be flagged, and that reduces the risk of fraudulent claims and facilitates faster invoice processing, improved accuracy, and enhanced control. And I think it can really help with client and customer experience. 64% of business owners say that AI is going to improve customer relationships. It can help automate generation of reports, extract relevant data from various sources and analyze it, and it really streamlines the processes and eliminates the need for manual compilation. And I think going on to continuous improvement, I think we just need to look at how they use all these different features, and I think we need to just make sure that we're looking at them and feeding back constantly so that we understand how these AI features that we're using are really improving things in our practice, so that we can integrate them into the software that we're already using to make our lives easier. There might be integrations that you can look at, for example, between your accounting software and payroll systems, expense management, document management, or between your ERP system and your CRM tools. So I think just keeping on looking at how these things are working and what's changing. I think the nature of AI means that features are organic and they're constantly progressing. Machine learning, means that this is going to be the case as long as things are being used. We're just going to have to keep an eye on these things. So there's lots of examples on the next slide, of tools, and I'm not going to go through these at all. I mean, these slides can be shared with you, and you can have a look at them in the recording. And you can see these are just a few examples, of the tools that are there and are available and what they can do. Cover some of the things that we've talked about. There's 4 new technologies, though, that I wanted to mention specifically that are destined to have a big impact on working practices in accounting and finance. And I spoke with Marie Speakman, who's our author of a course on integrating AI into the finance function. And she helps on a daily basis organisations integrate AI into their practices. And she says that there's 4 key things that are really going to change things for us going forward over the coming months and years. The first is quantum computing, which is set to revolutionise how we approach financial modelling and risk assessments. Traditional computers process information in binary bits, but quantum computers use qubits, which can exist in multiple states simultaneously. And this means that quantum computers can process vast numbers of possibilities at once, so it makes them really enormously powerful. And then there's the GANs, the generative adversarial networks. And these are one of the most exciting developments in AI, particularly in their ability to generate synthetic data that closely mimics real world data. And they consist of 2 neural networks, the generator and the discriminator, and they work together. And the generator creates synthetic data, while the discriminator evaluates this data against real data and continuously refines the generator's output until the synthetic data becomes indistinguishable from the real thing. And these GANs are providing, invaluable insight into the fight against financial fraud. And then looking at advanced natural language processing. So we've already got natural language processing, and that's made significant inroads into automating various tasks, such as report generation. But the advanced NLP technologies, they're pushing boundaries even further, becoming even more sophisticated. Just for example, on real-time analysis of financial communications, NLP can be used to analyse emails, meeting notes and other forms of communication. It can identify key themes and sentiments and potential risks. And this can allow management of practices to address issues before they escalate. And this can really help to improve decision making and even team morale. And it also can help to play a crucial role in regulatory compliance, because by scanning vast amounts of internal documents and communications, these systems can flag potential compliance risks. So that's important too. And then finally on this part, reinforcement learning, which is a type of learning where an AI agent learns to make decisions through trial and error. It optimizes outcomes over time. And unlike traditional machine learning models, the reinforcement learning models learn by interacting with their environments and receiving feedback and adjusting their strategies accordingly. So there's just an insight into some of those things there. So let's move on and look at AI in governance. I've just looked at the clock and I'm just conscious that I'm racing through this, and yes, time is probably running away with me a little bit, so we'll keep on. So when it comes to AI and governance, it's still in its early stages. And the first 3 considerations in the AI governance framework, I think, should be knowledge, strategic alignment and accountability. As a practice, you must possess sufficient knowledge to oversee the use of AI effectively, develop AI objectives that are compatible with the wider strategic direction, and ensure that senior named individuals are accountable for the success, failure, benefits and harms of AI use. So I think the governance of it is important. Just making sure that people are accountable. So knowledge includes things like keeping informed about any use of AI within the organisation, keeping up to date with new use cases and technological advances, and as an AI programme is put in place, collecting feedback from people involved with regards to things like beneficial outputs, potential risks, actual harms and ethical dilemmas, and learning from this feedback, so that, again, as I say, go back to continuous improvement. So we're constantly improving the way AI is managed and in a responsible way. Strategic alignment is important. We need to make sure that leaders align with the organisation's strategic goals and the ethical positioning. We need to take account of the needs and expectations of stakeholders, and we need to protect against any disruption that the use of AI by competitors could present to those goals. And in addition, leaders, we should look out for and respond to any indications that a particular AI system could be deliberately or even accidentally used in circumstances beyond those that were originally conceived and in ways that could be beneficial or harmful. And then accountability and responsibility, things we're very familiar with as accountants. There should be these structures put in place so that there's an appropriate senior person or persons, for example, a board, are formally held accountable for the outcomes of the use of AI. We shouldn't at any point attempt to delegate blame to technology, to junior employees, or to the whole organisation as a whole if things go wrong. There should be a separate team, should be made responsible for the operation of AI, which means they're tasked with ensuring that it's effectively and ethically implemented. So I think even where AI is purely experimental, it should involve making plans so that resources can be allocated, put metrics in place, and necessary training and processes in place, so that you can identify and manage ethical problems and any risks that appear. I think technology cannot be held responsible for poor systems. There should be strong and documented lines of communication between senior management, accountable individuals, and teams responsible for AI. And this communication should function in both directions, with responsible individuals able to express their concerns to leadership, as well as the other way around. Let's look at AI and ethics. This is something which is very close to my heart, as we publish a lot of content on ethics, not just on AI, but we do publish a lot of stuff on ethics just generally as well. And for accountants, incorporating AI tools into their organisation, so embedding ethical principles, it's just essential. And the key areas to consider will be familiar to you, as they just align with the fundamental principles outlined in IESBA, the Code of Ethics: integrity, objectivity, professional competence and due care, confidentiality, and professional behaviour. And these are critical concepts to keep in mind when integrating AI into your processes to ensure that they're embedded at every stage. And I think, look at hybrid intelligence. The future of finance lies in the synergy between the AI and the human expertise. And it's just finding that balance between the things that AIs and humans are good at. Hybrid intelligence supports ethical principles by leveraging AI's efficiency, while ensuring that human oversight in critical areas is there, maintaining accountability and addressing ethical concerns. And I think, we need to look at ethical guidelines. As an example, like the EU's ethical guidelines for trustworthy AI include a pilot version of a trustworthy AI assessment list, which provides detail on the key requirements for ensuring AI systems can be relied upon. And these guidelines outline a number of questions, such as whether the organisation has carried out a fundamental rights impact assessment to avoid any negative impact on fundamental rights. Other important guidelines include asking whether the organisation has considered the allocation of tasks between the human and the AI, if there is human review of the output of AI, and this can be used to mitigate the risks of issues arising. Albeit there's still the risk of automation bias. We still need to be aware of that. Here, let's look at Australia. Australia's got 8 AI ethics principles, which are designed to ensure AI is safe, and they help to achieve safer, more reliable and fairer outcomes for all Australians. They reduce the risk of negative impact on those affected by AI applications, and businesses and governments are to practice the highest ethical standards when designing, developing and implementing AI. And there's a lot of information out there available about these principles. They're entirely voluntary. They're designed to prompt practices to consider the impact of using AI-enabled systems if you are using it. And it's worth considering these questions and whether you should apply these ethical principles, and looking at them quickly as a glance. I'm not going to go into them in detail, but they are just to read these out to you. They are human, societal and environmental well-being, looking at human-centered values, looking at fairness, so AI systems should be inclusive and accessible, looking at privacy, protection and security, looking at reliability and safety, making sure things are transparent, making sure there's explainability, and looking at contestability. So when an AI system significantly impacts a person, there should be a timely process to allow people to challenge the use. And then looking at accountability, and I've obviously said that many times before, but yeah, just looking at that as well. So there's all these systems there. And then just moving on finally, before we can have any questions, just some key takeaways. And just coming back here to the UK, there's a report by professional body ICAW, if we can move on to the next slide, about the future of accountancy, and identified a number of key things that accountants can do to make the most of the opportunities offered by AI. And I think it's focus on purpose. Like, AI can help us make better decisions. AI, neither accounting nor AI is an end in itself. Both fields are designed with the aim of making people's lives easier. So the starting point for a longer term vision of how to incorporate AI into our work is to focus on making better decisions. So I think focus on the purpose of it. I think exploit powerful technologies. So recognize the potential of these new technologies that we've talked about, machine learning, deep learning. These technologies have the capacity to revolutionize problem solving in the profession, but understanding the unique characteristics of each technology and their real world application is essential. And I think radically, we should embrace this, these radical changes. So rather than just defending the status quo, it's about embracing change and exploring how AI can enhance human decision making. And collaboration between technology experts within the profession, it's crucial for reimagining solutions. Be adaptable. The future of accountancy can't be predicted with certainty. It's an ever-evolving technological landscape, and human perspectives, maintaining a flexible mindset, it's essential to adapt to these new technologies and shifting demands. So I think being adaptable is crucial. And be thoughtful. We need to stay alert. We need to work with AI and help it avoid making the same mistakes that people do. One of the ways that professions can do this is by better understanding how the process of decision making really works, and by acknowledging the differences between intuition and reasoning, and the benefits and drawbacks of both, and tempering what can realistically be expected. So I think the main thing is to be alert, but to keep an open mind and not allow things to cloud our judgment, to be able to think clearly about these things. So just moving on, finally, how we can help ACPD. We have a huge range of content that we use to help our learners all around the world understand more about AI. And we have a very broad course on AI for accountants. We have one specifically on risk and governance, one on generative AI, which obviously covers things like ChatGPT, one on which I've mentioned before, and how to integrate it into a finance function. We've got one on technology, AI and AML compliance, so all about the governance, and possibly our most popular one on AI and ethics. So we've got these specific courses, and on top of that, we've got a whole pathway. If you just want to cover all of this stuff in kind of one go, we've got a 20-hour pathway on this as well. So there's lots of content there that is available, that we use to help accountants to get to speed and to kind of demystify a lot of this area. So anyway, there's stuff there that's available for you, and this has been a real hop, skip and a jump through all of it, but I hope it's been helpful, and there's some nuggets of information that you can take away from today. I don't know if I've been literally whizzing through it, conscious of time. So
Rachel, that was fantastic, and I think given the speed at which it's evolving, and the so many ways in which it touches the modern business practice, I think it's only right to sort of give everyone a big overview, and hopefully in the future we can get you back and maybe dive into some of the sort of specific areas in a little bit more detail. I'm aware of time, but if anyone does have a question, we've probably got another few minutes. We could probably take a couple of questions. One thing that I would really be interested in, and I'm just going to launch a poll now, if you guys could take just 30 seconds, and this is just actually around the biggest barriers to adopting AI in your practice. It'd be really interesting to see what they might be for you. And is that coming up for everyone? Hopefully it is. It has been launched. So yeah, that'd be really nice to see.
That's great, Charles, and I completely forgot to mention the polls earlier on. I do apologise.
Well, it's a pretty involved topic, so I think I didn't want to interrupt you and spoil the flow. And Nina, has anyone asked any questions yet? Or equally, if you've got a question but you don't want it answered live, you could just ask it and just ask them to follow up on email. It doesn't have to be that we answer it now if you don't have time, or if you prefer to have that sort of answered more discreetly or more directly.
And I think we're very happy here at Accounting CPD as well. Like, you know, we have all these subject matter experts in AI that we work with. So I'm very happy to, if you get in touch with myself, I've left my email address on here. If there's any questions that you want me to kind of delve deeper into these things rather than just the broad brush of stuff that, you know, we can help a little bit with that.
Brilliant. So I'll just give it another 10 seconds and I'll close that poll off and I'll share it with everyone. So just closing it now. So it looks, I'll just see if I can, it's going to share. No, it's not sharing it, but if you can't see it, it basically says the key one is lack of knowledge and training. So that was just under half of people had that. Second is the biggest barrier with 31% was data privacy or ethical concerns. And I think, Rachel, you did a really good job of just highlighting, you know, the impact of what those could be, both on the clients, but also, you know, the team within the practice as to how it's implemented.
Absolutely.
Yeah, 19% had cost or resource constraints, which, you know, we understand at Boma, you know, especially with marketing, those are often sort of two big elements, and, you know, where to start. And then sort of the last 2% was split between either not convinced of the value, and I think there were a couple of people replied potentially in chat as well. So just while we wait for any last questions, I've just got one more poll, which I think would be really interesting to see results of.
Thing that about the cost thing is obviously there, and that's valid. But I think from what I've learned from our learners that we hear from and speak to, sometimes it is just dipping your toe in the water and just giving AI a little bit of a try with something small to kind of try out with the organization and kind of demystifying it and really understanding how it might be useful for one specific area, and then that can then lead on to other things and how things might be integrated. But that lack of knowledge and training, I think, you know, I think it is just got to be open-minded and aware and just try and keep on top of things and learning, and you're not going to know everything, so it's just taking an area that you're interested in. Like, I really like the ethics side, so I like really focus on that when I'm trying to find out more. But, you know, I think, yeah, we can't expect to know everything. It's a massive area.
And then just actually to that poll question about how would you go about learning it, 45% said via CPD courses, which obviously is great to hear.
That's good.
Yeah, 21% said in-person training. I suppose you just have to make sure that you are getting trained by someone who understands your area and, you know, has the right sort of background themselves. Via qualification from professional body, 14%. Online influencers at 8%. There are a number of people on YouTube, Instagram, people like that who are accountants themselves or sort of practice managers and do have experience. Maybe a great way to sort of dip your toe into it. I suppose, though, there is a bit of a difference between watching something on YouTube, which, you know, the quality levels might vary, and verified CPD course or sort of qualification where, you know, not only will you earn those hours, but it's been tested, proven to sort of cover what you need to do. I think we'll wrap it up there. Thank you so much for attending. And Rachel, thank you so much for your expertise and taking on the slightly daunting question of how to implement AI in your practice. It was fantastic.
No, Ray, thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
Brilliant. Thanks, everyone. See you again soon. Bye for now.